Hey, Matt Matheson here with Matt Madness. Thank you so much for joining us and being a part of this program today. You know how we feel about it. We really do appreciate you guys being here. Well, this is the third and final in the series of limits and x approaching infinity and polynomials and rational functions. And if I left anything else out of there, well, then fill in the blank yourself. Okay, as we've been doing before, this is a polynomial. It's a longer polynomial than we've been dealing with previously, but we know that's not an issue, don't we? And why do we know that's not an issue? Because we know we don't have to deal with the terms that have the highest exponents in them, meaning that all of this goes bye-bye as the way of the dodo bird. All right. Well, now that we only have to deal with the negative x being raised to the 8 and the 4x to the third, let's go ahead and take the limit of this new fraction that we were dealt with. All right, so we're going to have that limit as x approaches, and this is positive and negative infinity. I didn't put the negative, but this is going to be for both of those guys, obviously. And we're now just dealing with a negative x to the 8th, and that's going to be 4x to the third for our wonderful denominator. Well, you already know where we're going with this. Senorita Algebra to the rescue? No? Well, see, it is. Let's go ahead and get rid of all those x's on the bottom. Say bye-bye to those. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of 3 of those x's on the top, and that's going to give me an x to the 5th, isn't it? Well, it is. Let me go ahead and now take the limit of this new fraction that we're dealt with here. Going to make things a lot easier for us. And I'm going to take the negative x raised to the 5th, and I'm just putting that back over our 4. All right, well, let's evaluate this really quick. Well, what happens if I plug in an infinity here to the x? I got infinity raised to the 5 times, don't I? So that's going to give me a infinity. But hark, I've got a negative in front of the x. So that makes this a negative infinity, doesn't it? Well, it does. Okay. Well, now what are we dealing with? Well, we got a really, really unbelievable number on the top, right? Negative infinity, and that's being divided by a very small number on the bottom, right? Well, it is. So anytime we have that scenario, what are we dealing with? Yeah, we're just going to have a limit of negative infinity. Well, now I have to find negative infinity. How do I do that? Do I have to start all over with this? No, fortunately we don't, because the mechanics, the operations would be the same if this initial infinity had been negative. So now I'm just going to plug in negative infinity here for when we had our last fraction that we really used to find out the final value of the negative infinity. So let me just go ahead and take this again, and I'm going to plug negative infinity here. Let me just write this out. That'll be probably a little bit easier once you see this, as opposed to me trying to yammer on about it. So that negative infinity did not turn out the way that I hoped it would, but I'm already prepared for that. All right, so now we've got just the fraction again here, the negative x being raised to the 5th over 4. All right. Well, what do we do now? Well, let's just go ahead and take the limit as x approaches positive negative infinity, or I should say in this case negative infinity. That is what we're finding for it this time, isn't it? Yeah, we've already done the positive one. All right, so let me go ahead and I'm plugging in negative infinity for our x value here, right? Being raised to the 5th. So if I plug in a negative infinity here for the top, what does that give me? Well, initially it gives me a negative, doesn't it? But I also have a negative in front of that value of x, don't I? And a negative times a negative gives me it gives me a positive infinity, doesn't it? So now I've got positive infinity. The 4, what is the 4 doing? Well, it's not going to do anything because there's no x, so it's going to stay 4 and 4 and 4 forever. And if I have a really large number on the top, like positive infinity, and I have a really, really small number on the bottom, such as the 4, what happens then? Well, the same thing that happened over here, except this time it's going to be positive infinity. That's what that's supposed to be if you can't read that. Well, that's all the time we have for here on Math Madness. Thank you for joining me for this 3-part series on limits and polynomials and finding those limits. This is Matt Matheson. I'm going to see you really on.